Brew Tubers, happy Homebrew Wednesday, although I'll probably be posting this on a Thursday because I am filming on a Wednesday night. So the beer I have before me is not a homebrew, but I have a reason for drinking it, which I'll tell you in a second. This is that Great Lakes Edmund Fitzgerald Porter, one of my favorite porters that I buy, throughout the year just to enjoy. So what I love about it is that it has so much complexity. It's not too roasty, but it has like a really nice dark chocolate, a little bit of espresso coffee, but to me, a lot of its aromas remind me of like a big imperial stout, even though it's only 5.8% ABV. So a lot of flavor packed into here. Cheers. So the reason that I'm drinking it, or drinking it now specifically, is that this past weekend, while I was finishing editing up the Brewed Palate in the Kitchen episode 3 with the beer braised lamb shanks, I made a beef stew, just an impromptu, just throw together beef stew in a crock pot, in my crock pot, with a bottle of this beer and a bottle of my now pretty old Self-Righteous Wookiee, or my Imperial Black IPA, and I didn't use any beef stock. I just used all beer and relied on the juices from the vegetables and fat from the meat, and it cooked low and slow for about 8 hours or 9 hours in the crock pot to provide all the liquid. And it actually I didn't need more than 24 ounces of beer, any additional liquid I should say, than the 24 ounces of beer. So, and it came out awesome. So maybe if I make that same recipe again, I'll film another episode. But I just wanted to drink the beer just to show you that dark beers go really well with beef stew, and it's getting cold out here in the U.S., so perfect time for stew. Then, before I show you a couple clips about my English barley wine transferring to secondary, and a little bit of about a beer that I brewed but didn't film Brew Day recently, I just want to say, make one really important announcement, and also talk about what I did Monday night. So first, on Monday night, I went to Brooklyn Brewery for a beer release event, because I'm on their press list, one of the lucky few, and whenever they release a Brewmasters Reserve Series beer, they have a big party at the brewery on a Monday night, usually from 7:30 to 10:30. And it's a lot of fun. They have food and free beer, and just for all the guests, and because you get to bring a guest with you, and I brought my wife this time. And so the beer was a quad called Quadraceratops, an amazing 9.9% quad, literally the best American quad I've had. Really complex. I got to chat with Garrett Oliver, the brewmaster, the famous brewmaster of Brooklyn Brewery, about it, and how how they crafted the recipe and all the things they made, they did to make sure that the beer would ferment down far enough. It was a really cool time, of course, hanging out with people I know from the beer scene, and I also got one of the brewery reps who was there, who I know from the homebrew scene, gave me a little tour of the brewery. Someone showed me some of the new stuff that they've installed since the last time I went on a tour, which is about a year or so ago, and that was cool. So I have some footage from that, but I'll probably post that as a separate video, because I have a clip of Garrett talking about the beer to the crowd, and then the tour footage. So I'll probably put that together in its own video, along with a text review of the beer itself, or the Quadraceratops, on my blog. So then, before I shoot you off to the two clips I've mentioned, I want to talk about a contest, finally announcing the contest. So I have here 3 books. The water book from John Palmer, which I was going to make a water contest, but I still haven't gotten to filming the water video, and I don't know if I'm going to do it or when I'm going to do it, so I'm going to include it in this contest. And then, of course, I have the 2 books from Charlie Papazian, and he signed that both of them, I don't know if you can see that, say "Relax, don't worry, I have a homebrew" with his signature. So I have the Complete Joy of Homebrewing, the 4th edition, and the 2nd edition of the Homebrew's Companion. So the first place winner is going to get these 3 autographed books, and then the second place winner is going to get from Bitter and Esther's a kit with all the ingredients for the brown ale recipe that Charlie designed specifically for Bitter and Esther. So 2 amazing prizes. And what are the terms, you might ask? The terms are, I'll explain it this way, is that for me, homebrewing is a lot about relax, don't worry, I have a homebrew, because I get very anxious about the little details of homebrewing, you know, getting all the steps right, and what if something goes wrong, and blah, blah. And in the end, my beers have been coming out great, and I realize I don't have to worry. So the contest is going to be about what's your relax, don't worry, I have a homebrew story. What are you up, you know, you have a specific time, or you got really worried about something, you relaxed, you had a homebrew or a beer, craft beer, and everything came out fine. You can either email me your story, I'll put my email in the thing, you can send me a message on YouTube, I don't know if that'll work, but preferably email. And then after I've gotten what I think is enough entries, you know, over the next few weeks, then I'll pick the 2 winners, you know, from people who submit it from all the places I post the contest details, whether it's here on YouTube or my blog or on Reddit. I'll spread it all around to make it, you know, fair to everybody who I, you know, spread the word about my blog to. And then I'll pick, you know, the winners, and we'll get the prize as the 1st and 2nd place. So I'll shoot you off to those 2 clips. Happy Homebrew Wednesday, or I should say happy home brewing, because it's probably posted later in the week. But cheers, and keep on brewing. Alright guys, so as you see here, we have a gravity sample on my barley wine, the English barley wine. This is after about a 3-week primary. I checked it after 2 weeks, and it was at about 10:30 exactly, and now it's, you know, I don't know if you could see that, how well you could see that. Sorry about the jackhammering in the background, but you know, it's about 10:30, 10:29 right now, so it's pretty much stayed the same. It's a nice clear red color. So what we're doing now is I'm going to transfer it to secondary just to get it off the yeast for a week before I bottle it, so that the flavors can meld a tiny bit more, and it could, you know, or the yeast, you know, maybe could drop a couple points, and, you know, and so that, again, you know, from siphoning it even to a bottling bucket, you're going to take some more stuff with you. So if I could take less sediment with me, then I want to do that. And usually just for big beers, they need to mature a little bit off the yeast before bottle conditioning. So let's go ahead, I'll set up my camera and show you a little bit of the siphoning into my other 6-gallon better bottle. Alright guys, so as you see here, I didn't lose a ton of beer. As you see, I really siphoned it down to where the crown or the middle of the better bottle's bottom started showing. So I didn't lose that much over the sediment. Maybe a 1/4 gallon maybe. So because it's right at the 5-gallon mark here, so it's really only like a gallon worth of head space. You know, this is like the top part is, you know, where you would stop most of the time anyway. So again, I'm only going to keep it in here for a week, so that, you know, it could be matured for another week off the yeast. So I'm going to go ahead as usual and pour my gravity sample into one of my coveted stone taster glasses. And give it a little review. Alright guys, so as you see here, I have the beer. I don't know whether you could see that, but it's a really nice dark mahogany color, you know, a deep red, and I can even tell a difference now between when I took a sample at the 2-week mark and the 3-week mark, where the malts are definitely coming forward a lot more in this sample. Hence the reason why it's good to mature the beer, you know, for at least a 3-week primary and a 1-week secondary. Just to, you know, get the beer off the yeast, let it mature for another week, you know, and like I said before, just to really have all those flavors, from, especially for higher alcohol beers. This is a 9.5%, or 9.3 to be exact. It's definitely worth, you know, maturing. Now, when I took the sample at 2 weeks, so the hops were a little bit more forward, but for an English barley wine, hops aren't supposed to really be, you know, so forward. So in this one's aroma, you can definitely still smell a little bit of citrus, but not really. Definitely a nice caramel toffee, a little bit of esters, like some like cherry and date, but really not a lot of hop, not a lot of that Centennial or Chinook. There's a really nice toastiness also from the aromatic and the biscuit malt. So let's go ahead and taste it. Cheers. So good. And what I like about the fact that it might be young, what I like about my barley wine is that a lot of the, especially the barrel-aged barley wines that are so popular in America now, a lot of them are just so sweet, and like, you know, you can enjoy it as a sipper beer, but the finish is just so sweet that it really beats your palate down. I find that even though this has some heat to it because it's so young, the alcohol kind of comes to, and the hops and dry out the finish just really nicely. So in the flavor, you get a lot of the caramel, a nice toastiness from the base malts and the lighter color malts, and it's a really deep, rich malt flavor. It's really not the hops in the English barley wine that you really want to. You need a little earthiness from the Goldings, but and the Chinook, but the citrus from the Centennials really died down. Really made this to a really good beer. Yeah, it's not, you know, nowadays it's very hard to find a barley wine that's brewed in America, that's in the English style, that's not, you know, or even an American style. It's not really like a hoppy double IPA with a little bit more malt character. It's very hard to find like a really well brewed, non-barrel aged for that matter, beer, barley wine, English barley wine. So, for this one to have such a nice malt character is just really nice and really a good accomplishment for me. Hey guys, so for the next quick update, I'm going to start with a quick apology because I didn't film any of the brew day for my dark saison, and I was gonna call it the Innkeeper for the Holy Inn Brewing Company, but I decided to switch that and make that the name for my barley wine, because as some of you may know, the English barley wine style, when it was first started back in the day in England, it was like the top creme de la creme of the brewmasters lineup of beers. So because the barley wine is such a rich, complex style, felt that for my Holy Inn Brewing Company, that the Innkeeper would be the perfect name for a barley wine. But for this beer, the Dark Saison, which I'm about to show you, I haven't come up with an official name, but once I bottle it, you know, hopefully I'll have a name besides for Barry's Winter Saison or something like that. So here, down here I have it, and why I have two fermenters, a 5-gallon and a 1-gallon, is because in this 1 gallon I put the dregs for 2 Allagash sours. They're Cool Shipper Sorghum and their Midnight Brett. Midnight Brett just has Brett, and the Cool Shipper Sorghum has a bunch of bugs. So I let that go. I first pitched the dregs and let that go for like 3.5 days, and then I pitched the Saison yeast into that. So that, you know, has pretty much fermented out. I'll take off the bags that I'm using to shield it from the light just to show you what it looks like. But it doesn't look like it's really formed a pellicle just yet. You know, it's only been with the yeast for like 4 or 5 days, so you know it's gonna take time for. It's only been with the Saccharomyces Saison yeast for 4 or 5 days, so it's gonna really take time to really have the wild yeast, if it's still active, to do anything. So I have to give it as much time as possible before I make a final decision whether I want to add more dregs or not. But as you can see, it's still, you know, it's still there's still bubbles coming up from the bottom, so it's still a little bit active. Now here I have the main 3 gallons, main 4 gallons I should say, and this, you know, and the reason I have it by my radiator is because my fermentation chamber is occupied. So here I have the main 4 gallons, and it still has some also bubbles after a week on top, after a little over a week I should say, on top. But you know, I tested it after a few days just to see where it was at, because I was a little extra curious, and it was already down to like 10-12 from 1064. So you know, it should have, you know, dried out enough for me to bottle it in another week or so. So that's that. Overall, with me sitting here on the floor with my fermenters, you know, that's, you know, it's doing well, and I'm gonna keep brewing lots of Saisons because that's one of my favorite styles. And when I have more updates on this one, I'll come back and share those with you. Cheers.